And speaking of teams playing down in the deep south, that's not even the only top 25 game that's happening around this time. Now, this next game that's kicking off, it's not exactly a free 30 game, but it is a battle between two teams in the state of Florida. It's number 16 USF trying to go to war once again, taking on number 5 Miami. And I know the folks over at the CW right now got lucky. They feel so good about being able to actually carry this game. They got a really good game last week with the Baylor SMU matchup. And then this game ends up being even more high profile than anticipated. I know the execs at CW, they're absolutely ecstatic about this game right now. And they have every right to be. South Florida right now, they are riding literally the biggest wave of momentum that any G5 team could have to start a college football season. First of all, you already have multiple ranked wins under your belt. You had a then-ranked Boise State team come into your building. Not only you beat Boise State, you quintessentially kicked their ass. And that's a rare thing that happens to Boise State, regardless of who the Broncos are going up against. You accomplished that in week number 1. But then you follow that up, taking on the number 15 ranked team in our poll. You go into their building. And you beat them too. So, depending on how you consider top 25 wins, USF, they already have two top 25 wins under their belt. Arguably one of the best resumes in college football right now. And that's really hard to dispute regardless of who you cheer for. And they're led by a really dynamic quarterback, Byron Brown, who always knows how to make things happen. But Miami could be a different animal. They are entering fresh off of a dominant home win over Bethune-Cookman with Carson Beck, looking to prove that he is the 2023 version, and the early return says he is that guy. He is certainly that guy. 15 consecutive completions, and he's got a pretty good supporting cast, particularly that ground game with Mark Fletcher Jr. He was really able to power things out on the ground as well. Multiple rushing scores that we've seen for the Miami Hurricanes in this game. So they played in a pretty physical game against Notre Dame, but not necessarily the same thing. So you could even argue that Miami's a little bit more rested. But before we really get into the minutia of what we think is going to go down, let's check what are the betting markets saying right now. And for the second week in a row, USF is listed as a really heavy underdog. USF is listed as a 17.5 point underdog, which is right about where they were last week when they went on the road to play Florida. So they're definitely used to being an underdog. They've been an underdog the entire season thus far. But the model's a little bit higher. Not going so far as obviously USF as a favorite, but a little bit shorter. We're talking about USF as an 11.5 point favorite. About a touchdown we're talking about. And you know what? I do want to say this candidly. My heart wants to pick USF here. It's been one of the best stories in the college football season. And can you imagine if they go 3-0, especially with that non-conference schedule? It would be insane. It would be absolutely insane. And that's what I want to happen in my heart. I truly do. But at the same time, this is what my brain's saying. My brain is saying that even though USF has looked really good in the trenches, a lot better than expected, significantly better than expected, I'm still worried about how USF is going to hold up physically against a team that was able to match Notre Dame at the line of scrimmage and come out on top. That is incredibly hard to do, particularly with the culture that Marcus Freeman has up there in South Bend. And also, USF is coming off of another physically demanding game in the Florida game. They didn't play a perfect game, but it was still a physically demanding game for USF. Miami didn't have to work as hard, quite frankly. So, ultimately, while I believe USF is obviously the best G5 team in college football right now, and I think that's still going to hold up unless this turns into a complete rout, which I don't necessarily see coming in either direction. I would be very surprised if this ends up turning into a splattering down in Miami. But I do think that Carson Beck and the Miami Hurricanes, I do think they're just going to be too much to handle in a road environment. In a road environment where when Miami is really good, that stadium is rocking. And Miami, they're really good right now. And I think that stadium is going to be rocking. So I'm going to give credit where credit is due. I do think USF does at least cover in this spot. But I will go on to say that I think Miami will end up winning the game. They'll win 38-24. So USF will cover. But I still think Miami will win somewhat comfortably. Should be an interesting game to watch. Maybe one of those games where, maybe it's close at the half, but then Miami pulls away in the second half. That's kind of what I'm expecting, to be honest with you.